Hello, and welcome back to yet another Geek Show where I just took my daily dose of Clorox through the veins. This is your host, Alex Ecker.
I'm your host, Dalton Lee.
And that's as political as we will ever get.
I mean, I'm willing to go further if you permit it.
Don't inject Clorox or any disinfectant, please. That was a joke.
Well, the thing is that, like, that shouldn't be a political position.
No, it shouldn't.
See, here's the thing is, on this show, I'm not gonna, we are gonna derail the shit out of this opening.
Go for it.
We rarely mention politics because I'm not gonna bring up things that are like, things that truly are inherently political. But when it's something that just shouldn't be, like, hey, don't knowingly risk the lives of people around you during a pandemic, like, that's not political, right? That's not left versus right. That's respectful people versus dumb people.
It's the classic Philly D. Don't be stupid, stupid.
There you go.
Yeah.
On that note, in addition to our usual wash your hands message, maybe we have to add wear your masks.
Make
Put
sure
that in there.
Make sure if it has a Mr. Yuck sticker on it, don't drink it.
Let's talk about games.
Let's change this, shall we?
This is a game show.
Yeah.
Not literally no, that phrase means something.
Where we talk about video games, and if you guess the third video game, you win $100. Yeah, like I
have been
$100.
playing Wheel of Fortune.
Oh, God.
And Jeopardy.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what I could possibly say about them, though. Like, you know what Wheel of Fortune is. What could I possibly tell you about this?
We played Family Feud on our Let's Play. A very early Let's Play that we did.
We'll be playing more versions of it.
Oh, God.
For sure.
I'm sure we are.
That's my goal. For at least one episode, we are going to play every ancient port or version of every game show.
The last name that I hybrided between our names is still going to be canon. If we play a game together
in our game show universe.
In our game show universe, the Munker family. The Munker family will handle.
Oh, geez. Okay, what have I actually played? I'm going to go with one I actually played a few weeks ago, but didn't remember to bring up on the last episode. Not because it was bad, but I played a game that, if I am pronouncing this correctly, is called Gris.
Okay. Oh,
but I think a lot of people don't realize that that's Gris as in French for gray, so a lot of people keep reading it as Gris or Gris, and I didn't realize what it was supposed to be until some other YouTuber clarified that for me.
And my wife, because she knows a little bit of French.
Yeah, that's right. We asked her last week when I realized after the episode I didn't bring it up. Okay, so this game, I like it. Okay. I do. But if you look at the Steam reviews on it, it's listed as like overwhelmingly positive. I think it's something like 97% positive. And like, I do like it, so no one's wrong for voting it as positive, but I am surprised it's that high. Mm-hmm. I don't love it. It's fine. Although I did play 80% of the game and then get interrupted by Final Fantasy VII Remake. And then go back and play the last 20% of it, which is a little unfair to any game.
Yeah, that's fair. Because everything lives in its shadow after that.
Yeah, it really, truly wasn't fair to do to this thing. So keeping that in mind, Gris is an indie platformer, but like, is arty a genre yet? Just the word arty. Artsy? It's an artsy game.
So it's an indie game.
I was about to say walking simulator. It's not, because it really is a platformer, but the type of artsy game people think of when you say walking simulator, it's artsy in that way. In that the story...
Huge environment kind of thing?
What? In that the story isn't... it's kind of abstract. And the game is, to some extent, more about an experience than the gameplay itself. It is enough gameplay that I'm not going to call it a walking simulator. It is truly a platformer. But you're not necessarily there for the platforming. I'm not going to tell anyone, buy this game because the platforming's great. Like, this isn't
right.
Super Meat Boy or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
but it's a very pretty game. One of the best looking games I've ever seen, actually. It's all kind of, I haven't looked into the making of to know for sure if this is the case, but the way it looks to me is that everything is hand drawn, perhaps actually watercolored rather than digital. Just at least by looking, it seems like they're going for that. I don't know if the backgrounds literally are scanned watercolor images.
Yeah.
But whether it really is or not, that's the style they're going for. And this game, truly, every single frame of it is a wallpaper. Like, you could screenshot any single frame of playing this game ever. And
I got confused.
all of it makes a great desktop wallpaper. The music's great too. Just generally the art direction. But the thing is, while I recommend it on those grounds, just that it is great to look at and it's great to hear, it didn't emotionally resonate with me in a way that I think it is for a lot of people. And I think maybe I've just played enough of these kinds of games that I'm getting kind of picky about it. And the whole thing just feels like the weakest, loosest metaphors. I don't feel like there's a continuous like line of thought where the story's progressing in a certain way and these things that are on this screen of the game represent this. There's just some really generic imagery to represent like anxiety and depression and whatever similar negative sounding words, but there's nothing actually compelling there. It opens with a beautiful animation that's all basically metaphor for this girl's sad, but like that's it. The beautiful imagery of the rest of the game doesn't elaborate any deeper, and it's like it just feels like the people behind it just figured out what a metaphor is and then just kind of leaned into 2 or 3 of them without actually fleshing out a more detailed set of emotions, a more meaningful experience. For the first quarter of the game or so, it reminded me a bit of Journey, which I love. To the extent that for the first like quarter of it, I was playing it thinking, ooh, they are being a little too upfront about their inspiration from Journey. It took a level for it to kind of become its own thing and separate itself.
Okay.
But it does not live up to Journey's shadow at all. While Journey also has an abstract story where nothing's really told to you, there isn't like a plot synopsis that can be written down, I still feel like I go for a ride and I experience different things throughout. Okay. In this game, different color, like different levels lean into different color themes, I guess, but there's nothing actually making me feel different ways. I just don't think the game is as clever as the game thinks it is.
Okay, I see that. Yeah, I've seen that in a few different styles.
Yeah, and again, that's not to say it's bad. I absolutely do recommend it if you have any appreciation at all for games that are meant to be an experience more than
a game.
Being about the gameplay itself. It's just that to me, like it's not nearly as good as I was sold for it to be.
Okay.
That's all I've got on that. Soft recommend versus a hard recommend. So we should just before we continue, we should change it so it's either a soft, hard, or fully erect recommend. I'm okay with that. I don't know about you, but I'm fine with it. So anyways, moving on. My wife bought a Switch and I bought her Animal Crossing for her birthday. And she's like, I kind of want to buy other games now. Because I didn't realize something with Animal Crossing is that it runs in real time. So I didn't realize that you can only do so much. And then wait you
a
were
while.
So unfamiliar with Animal Crossing that you weren't aware of that.
I've never played one or ever really seen anything
that's
about
actually
them.
there from the original. That
Yeah.
is there from the first GameCube game.
Right.
Or
So
technically N64. In Japan, the first game was an N64 game.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
By the time we got it, they made it a GameCube game.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. But we were looking at a bunch of free games on the Switch, and we decided on playing two of them. One of them, a friend of mine recommended me. It's Kirby Clash. So it's a Kirby game, but it's like,
okay,
it's a mix between Kirby and Monster Hunter in a way. You get on, you have 4 teammates, regardless if you're playing by yourself or with friends. You have a sword user, a hammer user, a medic, and a mage. And they're all Kirby, just different colors.
I was going to say, these are all Kirby.
Yeah. And you get one giant monster and you fight it to the death. There's not much like story there. I played it a couple of times, you know. So if there was story there, I forget it. But it's really fun. It's a lighthearted like Monster Hunter for those who aren't wanting to get that developed into Monster Hunter. And plus, every monster in Kirby is fucking cute as hell. Like every
so is this kind of like, is this like a small simple game that's kind of just meant to sell the live service?
Probably
kind of like Tetris 99, just like here's a decent free game that encourages you to go online.
Yeah. And, you know, here's an in-app purchase if you want to buy it or if you want to get extra shit kind of thing faster. You get the stuff in game. If you want to get it faster, you can buy it kind of thing. But it's fun. I personally enjoy it. I don't have much to say about it other than like if you're a fan of Kirby, I would recommend it. I'm a fan of Kirby.
Were you in the middle of playing this game when I texted you and said, "Hey, I just got through Kirby's Dream Land. Let's start spotlighting Kirby"?
No. I've had this game on my Switch for a long time. This friend of mine, we were originally going to play it together, but you have to get to a certain point before, like, or at least when I started playing it, I don't know if that's changed, but you had to get to a certain point before you could play online with a friend. Or that's what we thought, or something. And we never got to play together. So I just left it on my Switch until he decided, hey, let's try it again. But ended up working out in a way so me and my wife can play it. It's real simple, real fun. I recommend it if you're bored and are, well, quarantined with somebody who also has a Switch, or you can play on one console together. And yeah, you're not. It's a soft recommend.
I will keep that in mind for immediately after we get off this podcast. So I'm not going to talk about Kirby's Dream Land because we are actually going to spotlight that game because it's a half-hour long. Alex doesn't get to argue with me about a half-hour game.
No, and I like Kirby, so
sure. I also played F-Zero. Not going to talk about that. Wait for a spotlight on it. Or no, sorry. Whoa, I just mixed up F-Zero with Star Fox. Jesus, because I played both.
Like, wait a minute.
I played both. I am going to talk about F-Zero. I'm not going to talk about Star Fox.
Okay.
Wow. Spotlight on Star Fox coming eventually.
I've played F-Zero. I think I've played it with you too, in fact.
Quite possibly. F-Zero is one of the Nintendo classics that I did not miss out on growing up.
Yeah.
You know, me just now trying to catch up on Star Fox and Kirby. F-Zero for the Super Nintendo. Basically, I go back to this game once every couple of years, and I just realized this time through that I only ever actually played through the first cup. I bought it. I didn't have it as a kid. I bought it as a teenager, like traded in other games at some used game shop and got the, at the time, like decade-old Super Nintendo cartridge. And I would play it and I'd have other people play it and I loved it. But it's pretty hard. And I never tried to play past the first cartridge. This time, I finally did. Yeah. And so this time I did finally play through each cup, but I had to abuse save states to do it on a certain level or two. Because I'm learning now the importance of looking at a manual when you play an old game like this.
It was mandatory. It really was.
Because I didn't know, it's actually been a few weeks since I played and finished this one, but there was a certain jump that was like a few levels into a cup where I didn't know you could, I think you hold down going off of a jump to go further. That's what I eventually figured out. But I had to lose on this jump like 30 times before I figured it out. Actually, I kept restarting the cup as different cars because I'm like, well, I can't do it with this one. Let's try another one. And eventually I'm like, no, this is impossible. You cannot possibly build up enough speed because it comes right after a turn. I'm like, there has to be something I'm missing. There's something you can do when you hit a jump to go further.
Man,
but since I was playing it on the real console, since I was playing it on the real console and I wasn't emulating it all this time, I couldn't just like save right before that jump and keep trying it over and over again. And so that's why I never managed.
Yeah.
That said, I don't know. What can I add about F-Zero? Tell me about F-Zero. You've played it.
Killer soundtrack. Very fast paced for its time.
You know what? On the soundtrack,
aggressive. Like it's a difficult game.
It's very difficult, but for the soundtrack, I'm actually gonna say it has a few stellar highlights that are a big deal. And then a lot of pretty mediocre stuff that to me didn't really suit the mood for racing. It has a couple that are super important and really nailed it, and a few that I'm like, oh, this is doing nothing for me. I kind of had that playing through the original Doom. There were tracks where I'm like, oh yeah, this is badass. This like defined a moment in history. And then there were other levels where I'm like, what is this? It was also, I guess it was a launch title for the Super Nintendo. I didn't know that. And to me, man, that's impressive for a launch title. Just how good it looks. That Mode 7 usage. This is still one of the best. Still, like they're still making Super Nintendo games and acquiring more competition for it. But it remained one of the best looking ones. I didn't realize it came so early in the console's catalog. Even if you're not into racers and this isn't a race simulator, it's more of an arcade racing game, maybe even a little closer to Mario Kart than a lot of racing games. Even if you're not super into it, I think this is a game that to me, it feels like a really big deal for gaming, and you should at least check it out. Even if you don't try to beat it, I think you just need to be aware of it and give it a shot. It's one of those. I genuinely still enjoy it. I will demand that we let's play it eventually. I don't think everyone's going to love it because you might just not love racing games, and it is what it is. But I think everyone should give it a shot. And if you own a Switch, it's on the Super Nintendo emulation service on there.
Yeah, and it's like what? So my wife and I, we actually just looked at this because she was going to get the Nintendo Plus stuff. It's like $3 a month to have it, or $20 for a whole year. So it's honestly worth it because you get, especially if you're a classics fan, because like you have 30 plus NES games and then like another 20 plus SNES games for free, basically.
Yeah, and like when it comes to charging for online services, I'm of two kind of contradictory minds where I'm like, on one hand, they should not be charging for this. It drives me nuts, especially Nintendo, who is no good at like setting up online gaming. They are just 20 years in the past on making that work right. But it is the cheapest one. I do enjoy the access to the Nintendo and Super Nintendo emulation services. And I am thrilled that when I switched to PC gaming, this was one of my big sticking points. I'm not paying for online anymore, but I am glad that since then, all three companies have leaned really hard into giving you other benefits for it. Yeah. So it is what it is. I don't like that anyone charges for it, but Nintendo's pretty cheap about it and has it's worth it for that catalog, really.
Plus that and the cloud saving, that's useful.
I also don't think they should be charging for that, but still, they have added more functionality than there was when I started complaining about this. So
side rant, I love my Switch, but there are so many things that they can improve on. Like, how come every console except the Switch has a browser? Because this actually segues pretty well into the next game I was playing. With the 3DS, for example, I had Ocarina of Time 3D on there, and it had been a while since I had played, Ocarina of Time on the N64. So the easy thing to do was on the 3DS, you hit the home button, you hit the browser button, and then you can search for a walkthrough, close out of that, and go right back into your game.
Yeah.
I've recently been playing Link's Awakening, the remake on the Switch. And not having that function's kind of infuriating because I have to stop the game, open up my phone, or find my phone because I don't always necessarily have it in my pocket, you know?
Sure.
And search for it and then, read on instead of just being able to hit the home button and go back to the game.
Right.
You know, which, by the way, I do want to talk a little bit about Link's Awakening. I have a history with this game.
Go for it.
I remember, oh goodness, I would have been between the ages of 4 and 6 when I got my first Game Boy Color. More than likely I was 5. And my favorite color is green. And I opened up this sweet...
if your favorite color is green, you would have loved the original Game Boy.
Well, yeah.
Where every game was 4 shades of green.
What's interesting is that my mom actually had a Game Boy growing up. So I got to play with that.
That thing's lifespan was a long time.
Oh, you ain't kidding. I took a trip to New York for the American History Museum and seen the Game Boy that survived the Gulf War bomb. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super cool. But anyways, back on to the main topic here.
I was just Googling its lifespan. That thing was active for 14 years.
Oh, I was just talking about durability.
No. I'm talking about how long the thing was relevant for, though.
Oh, it was a long time.
That, a parent really could have, had their own Game Boy and enjoyed it and then gave it to a newborn and then had that newborn enjoy it for a significant chunk of their childhood.
Right, exactly. But I got my own Game Boy Color around that time. I remember my mom used to work at a franchise. Fuck it. She used to work at a Walmart. And back in the day, they used to have...
Oh, no, I'm going to identify you now.
Oh, yeah.
That was enough to do it. You should have watched out.
I just wanted to avoid names of things, you know? But she worked at a Walmart, and me and my dad went to go pick her up the one day, and they both had noticed that I did really good on one of the tests I did. And they asked me what game I wanted, and I seen the gold cartridge. Well, not the gold cartridge, but the gray cartridge with the gold sticker on it. And it was Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX. And I was like, I want that one. So I played that game forever, and I never got past the second dungeon as a kid. Because I mean, when you're that age, you don't go, oh hey, let me quick jump on game FAQs and search for a walkthrough and all that kind of stuff. It was mostly a time waster in the car. I just would collect rupees and kill things. And now I have since corrected that. I'm on the last dungeon of the game, I think. Or maybe second to last dungeon. It's amazing to me because the soundtrack is still spot on. I remember because I hadn't touched that game for so long. And then hearing the soundtrack really just made me feel like I was that age again. And seeing the complete remake, this is what I had envisioned in my head almost, aside from the chibi cutesy kind of stuff about it. This is what I remember seeing in my head as that age. It is wild. I don't know, there's something really cool about that. But this game is really good. Surprisingly short, because I got through 6 dungeons of it in a night. And then the next day, you gave me my PS4 back.
I did see people when the game was announced, because it was basically said that outside of, I think they added a dungeon creator, right?
Yeah.
So outside of that, they're like, no, this is pretty much exactly the original game. So given that length, I remember people complaining, you guys are seriously gonna launch this for $60.
Yeah.
It looks like a fantastic game, but holy shit, $60 for remaking a short old Game Boy game where it is made from scratch. It's not like it's a ROM and an emulator. They did still need to work out the kinks in a new art style and create all new assets and reorchestrate all the music and whatnot. But still, the story and level designs are already built. and it's a short game to begin with. It is pretty crazy for it to be a $60 game, but that's what you're getting yourself into with Nintendo all the time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's with Nintendo. Like, I mean, I'm not going to say how I got my game, but I did pay a discounted price for it. Now, yeah, I wouldn't buy it necessarily at $60. I didn't. That's the only reason I didn't. Like, that's the only reason I bought it. But
I mean, that's what I do with Nintendo is
you play the shit out of the game because it's fun.
Like,
you know,
well, like whether it's from like some other site or it's from the eShop, like I don't buy anything Nintendo until generally don't buy anything from Nintendo until I see a discount. Yeah. And when it does, I don't even really care what Nintendo game it is. I just bought and played through Mario and Mario and Sonic at the Olympics Tokyo 2020, whatever it's called.
Well, and before you jump onto that, or are we still
I'm not going to talk about it. I'm talking about the pricing because like I enjoyed it and I trusted that I was going to enjoy it because it was Nintendo, but like I bought it because it hit $40. I didn't even care what Nintendo game it was. Yeah. I saw that they bothered to do 30% off on a Nintendo game, and I'm like, all right, I guess it's this one.
I guess
I'm playing next. At the same time, I bought that Mario and Rabbids, whatever it's called, that strategy game. Yeah, I don't know a thing about it, but I know I tend to like their games, and they finally discounted it. So sure, let's jump into that game.
Right, exactly. But yeah, honestly, it's tricky because like I know I didn't buy the Link's Awakening at full price, but at least seeing what I've seen now, I don't know. Like it depends on the mood I'm in. If I seen it for $60 still and I really, really wanted to play it, I'd buy it. This is one of those ones where I was just a little on the fence about.
There are games where you like them enough that maybe the price doesn't really matter. I very recently have happened to buy several full price $60 games, which is something I've avoided doing for years and years. I am normally someone who doesn't pay any attention to what upcoming releases there are. If you ask me right now, what games are you looking forward to? Only one just came to mind, Cyberpunk. I can't even think about what else is coming. But I did just have several in a row where like Doom Eternal. Oh my God, I loved the last Doom so much. I'm not going to wait for this to get discounted. I'm good right now.
Yeah.
And then spoiler alert, I loved Final Fantasy VII Remake. And even if it turned out that I didn't like it, like I had to play it and find out to know that I'm glad to pay $60 for it. I might have paid $100 for it and complained about it, but still did it.
I would pay $100 for a Legend of Dragoon remake, but you know, so that leads me actually to my recommendation of this game. If you have strong nostalgic ties to it, it's worth $60. Like genuinely, it is worth that money. But if you're not, try and find it for a cheaper price. So if you have fully wrecked nostalgia, recommend. If not, just soft.
Sure,
just soft.
Sure. and I mean, there's people that I don't know how long this game is, but like.
Not very long.
Fantasy VII Remake, it took me 40 hours. There are people that aren't happy with that. There are people that, I guess particularly for a JRPG, they're like, $60 for 40 hours? Jeez. And I'm like,
fuck
bro,
you.
40 hours is more than I want to spend in almost any game.
Yeah. Like,
so
we
to
had
me, that price makes sense.
Was this last episode that we had this discussion?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
There you
go. Quality over quantity. Like, it's not a hard thing to understand.
Your personal attachment matters and the level of polish matters.
Yes, exactly. Like what was it? They like people laughed at Ubisoft for one of the Assassin's Creed games because there was like over 6,000 lines or 60,000 lines or something of code for a crouching animation, and people laughed at it, and like the guy one of the developers was just not happy that someone made a joke about it. Yeah. It's like, no, because we want it to look good.
Yeah, that's polished. That's what we get behind AAA games for, is that high production value.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have like I'm in one of those moods
I guess my point there is that Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm accidentally going to not save this rant for the spotlight, I guess. But we're talking about production levels. People are specifically comparing it to JRPGs and going, they're always over 100 hours, maybe closer to 200. And like, okay, but are any of them as well produced as this one is?
Are there any fetch quests?
Aside from memes where like I know that the unnamed characters look bad, and I know that there are some weak wall textures, just limitations of being on the PS4.
Right.
But like, there's still crazy production value. Like the named character models are the best I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Even aside from the weak textures, they're the best looking, just purely based on art style. They're the best looking environments I've ever seen.
Do me a favor real fast. Name a Final Fantasy game that has claimed to be fully voice acted that actually was. Final Fantasy VII Remake. That is the only game that has, you know what I mean? Like that takes money for every actor to be in the studio to do the lines and do them for hours because they need so many takes. You know what I mean?
Well, and the effort into like orchestrating the music in such a way that's more interactive. I'm sure Link's Awakening had to do this too, where you take songs that, you know, at that time they just looped, but today we need our music to be interactive, and so you need to orchestrate them and rearrange them in ways that lend the ability to make it interactive. And they did that to a 40-hour game here where, like, I'm under the impression, I don't play many, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like most JRPGs are still on the cheap side and don't put that effort into, you know, making the music all that interactive.
It's not a common thing unless it's a AAA
and voice
game.
acting every line and like doing decent motion capture for most of it. Yeah, so even if you're not happy with 40 hours for $60, which I for one am, that has to be part of the equation too.
Right. The amount of money that people and time and effort it takes to make something, it really does go into the price of something, you know?
We are technically still on Link's Awakening, so conclusion, yeah, it's way too short for your money, but maybe you'll be really attached to it anyway and not particularly care, the same way I don't particularly care about the price of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. Let's get off this side rant. I had another game. Do you have any other games before you want to?
Go ahead.
Okay. It's something real small. My wife and I both frequently play this game called Sea of Thieves. I know I've mentioned it on the podcast before. They just did another update where they added, because there's pets in the games. You could either get a pet monkey or a pet parrot. And now you can get a pet cat. And you bet I spent $250 on coins to buy a pet cat, and they are adorable. They are really cute. Worth revisiting the game. They did some improvements. Like with the last update, like they included weather systems. You can actually be struck by lightning and flung off of your ship and then eaten by sharks. Which, if you know me personally, I hate sharks. They freak me out. I respect them, but I don't want to be near them. They're supposed to add a couple other things, like I think upgrade the mermaids or add other mermaids other than the ones that are supposed to take you back to your ship if you do get castawayed.
Yeah.
It's honestly a fun game. It's on Xbox Game Pass if you have it. Give it a look-see. I recommend playing it with a friend because personally I wouldn't have played it without my wife being interested in it. It's a real relaxing kind of game. Just as long as you mind your distance from other people, because sometimes they can be either really cool or really mean and ruin all the fun you were having personally.
I thought you were saying keep your distance from other people, play online. There's a pandemic going on.
That too. There's plenty of water so you can wash your hands in game. But yeah, that was all the smallest thing I really had about Sea of Thieves. Those are like the primary things I've been doing. It's just that. So Dalton, do you have any other games, or do you want to move into shows?
I'm actually going to suggest that we cut it off here because we are recording this episode several days late, which means we have fewer days to acquire new things to talk about for the next episode.
Well, that's lame because I wanted to bring up
also the last episode released late, which means you got extra episodes this week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
With that said, thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. What's next? Advent Children.
Yeah.
Advent Children is next. See us there.
Stay home.
Wash your hands. Wear your mask.
Don't drink bleach.